Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 19 of History's Greatest Idiots, the show where we look back through all of human history and give you lessons and examples of colossal stupidity that you can learn lessons from and hopefully never repeat those mistakes again. But who are we kidding? We're humans, and mistakes are part of our anatomy, and we'll be talking about anatomy between the two of us in a second, because boy, have we had some shit going on in the last couple of weeks. But joining me as ever is my amazing co-host and dear friend Derek. Derek, it's been a bit of an interesting fortnight for us, hasn't it? Kimberly, hey, as well. Just want to say hello to Kimberly there.
Hi.
I hope you're both feeling well. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Tell us about your last couple of weeks, because you've got a lot on.
Oh man, I'm feeling good now.
Good. That's the important thing.
Yeah, some stomach health issues, being an old guy, not listening to, doing what I'm supposed to do, all that
Sure.
stuff. But most importantly, moving my son up to Oregon again for his second year of college up there.
Super
that
cool.
was fun. I hate driving that far.
It is. Like, sometimes that kind of drive can be really interesting, but when shit happens on the drive, you're like, oh, this is the worst fucking situation to be in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Then we got just one trailer tire problem. Trailer tire. Yeah.
Trailer tire.
God, that sounds weird. But other than that, no major issues. So I can't complain. It went well. And he's got a nice place. I'm jealous. I was sitting on his patio looking out at the inlet, watching tugboats go by.
Oh man,
little jerk.
That sounds like a perfect. I'm like, oh, I want to move there.
Yeah.
Like, can you remember your time in college? I can remember going back to my college dorm up in the northeast of England, and like the heating being off. And the northeast of England is basically Scotland, so it was the pipes were frozen, so we had to boil water in pans and pour it into a bathtub to get warm. That's the kind of shit we were getting up to in college.
Yeah. His dorm, his first year, he had a view of the lake and a walk-in closet. Now this year he's living off campus with another pitcher, and they've got a little yard and a 2-bedroom place that overlooks the inlet that goes to where the Coast Guard drives their little tugboats through.
Fuck.
Wild blackberry bush across the street.
Picket fence. Fucking
yeah.
Oh my god.
They're set up, man.
It sounds
killing
awesome.
It, these kids.
I mean, college life for me, I think it was like, I remember college because I have 2 degrees, so I went twice. I remember college being fun despite the absolute depravity that the degradation that we lived in, like the shit conditions, the terrible food, the awful housing, and like rats and fucking cockroaches everywhere and shit. Like the 90s and early 2000s, student accommodation was really not very good in the places I went. The courses were great, but the accommodation was like horrible.
Sounds like you had a rough go.
Yeah, but it sounds like Brad's got it like set, which is great.
I'm super jelly. He's got it better than me. Little jerk.
Yeah, but I tell you, it's all going to be worth it because he's going to remember that so fondly, you know. But I'm glad you got that sorted. And you're in the middle of a bit of a move yourself, so that's obviously been causing a bit of usual moving pains. Stuff.
Yeah. We'll be hopefully into our next place when this is out on the podcast side of things.
That's
so
right.
This next weekend.
That's right. Yeah, you should be in then. And I really hope you take like the weekend and like a few days to just chill, settle in, just like have some food. Don't like cook or anything. Just order yourself some
Oh,
food and just relax.
I don't plan on cooking for like the whole first maybe few months that I'm there. There's so much stuff because we're moving
Yeah.
downtown to like do this little high rise living
Mm,
thing.
mm,
So just downstairs, there's all of these little shops and restaurants and
nice.
breakfast diners, and I'm set. I'm not cooking.
I fucking love diners. I really do. There's something really American about diners. I mean, we have things in this country like greasy spoon calves, and I actually do really like an English breakfast and stuff because, like, when it's made well, it's like it's actually really tasty and good for you and shit like that. But I've been in a bunch of American diners in small town America, like Pennsylvania and stuff, and I've always had the most wonderful experience. And they've always been super welcoming, and like particularly in Pennsylvania, where they're like, "Where the fuck are you from?" And I don't know why they sounded like Laszlo for a second, but yeah, like I was a kind of an oddity there, and I love diners and that kind of culture. So I think the fact that you're near it, giving you that option now that you moved into a new place, it will help you discover the neighborhood.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's
I'm
really
excited about that because it
mm,
feels like the neighborhood and like there's a community there
mm,
that
that's great.
doesn't seem to be around so much, or I didn't feel like I fit in with in the suburbs out here.
Sure, yeah, different crowd. You know,
Yeah.
that's fine. I Kimberly asked at the start. I hope you're both feeling well. I so I've been having a bunch of vitamin B12, iron, and vitamin D injections because, as my GP put it, I am dangerously low on all three and quite close to being horrifically anemic. So they arranged this, and they had to have 6 injections in 2 weeks. So that's how bad it got. And I went for the 5th one on Thursday afternoon. Thursday morning. I was in work, and I wasn't feeling great. I mean, you don't feel great because the injections sting like a motherfucker.
Feel like a
But
pincushion.
oh yeah, like I'm a fucking human dartboard at this point, mate. But so the injection happened, and I was just having like these gripey stomach pains that were unusual for me. They were a different kind of pain than the Crohn's pain I normally feel because I can feel something and I'm like, right, okay, I've got precisely 10 minutes to find a toilet, or the choice will not be mine, or
Oh,
like, okay, this is going to be a bad stomach pain. I have to eat this thing. I have to take this painkiller. Like, I know what the pain means and what I need to do to manage it at this point. But this was new and it was really weird. And I was like, oh, it's like I've eaten a brick. It
oh,
didn't feel right. Yeah, it felt heavy. And anyway, as it developed throughout the day, I had to call my wife home early from work, and I had to call my boss, and I'd be like, listen, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to have to take the rest of the afternoon off. And it elevated to the point where at 6 p.m. I started being sick and continued being sick until 6 a.m. nonstop for 12 hours. My wife, and not just like the sickness, this thing in my stomach, which was rolling, it would come in and out, the pain. But when it came in, I was like writhing and screaming in agony. I was sweating. My vision was going blurry. And like I've had Crohn's disease pain for a long, long time. This was totally different. And also because I was constantly being sick, I couldn't take any painkillers because I just sick them straight back up again. And I
oof.
had an empty stomach. So I was like raw dogging the shit out of this pain.
That
I
is
felt
awful.
like it was horrible. And I was going like when the ambulance crew, because we called an ambulance at 2, I woke my wife up at 2:45 in the morning, and I was like, call an ambulance. And when they finally arrived 3 and a bit hours later, because like the NHS is stretched thin, thank you a bunch, Tories, basically they came in and they're like, he has gone delirious with pain. That was,
Well, that's
yeah,
a lot of writhing in pain and throwing up. It's
yeah,
6, 7, 8. That's a lot of hours already
it's
that you're then
12
you're in.
hours.
Yeah.
And I hadn't drunk anything in that time. I hadn't
Oh,
eaten anything in like 18 hours. And I was just begging them. I was like, please give me painkillers, please. And I just wanted IV paracetamol. Anyway, eventually I was unwell for the very last time. And it was so over the top that it cleared everything. And I said to the ambulance crew, listen, I don't want to go to the hospital with you right now. Thank you. I'm going to stay home and rest. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 days. Anyway, I now have a new health condition by the sounds of it, which means that the stomach muscles and nerves in my stomach don't move food properly all the time. So I have to change my diet again. So I have to have small meals multiple times a day, like 6 meals a day, but like really small portions. And like it has to be certain types of food. So like chicken and rice and pasta and potatoes and like nothing too intense, nothing too spicy, nothing big. I have to eat my food slowly. I have to have a partial liquid diet. It's like there is medicine I can take for it, but like it might be contraindicated. I'm just waiting for a specialist, but it was fucked up. Like for 12 hours, I was basically vomiting and delirious with pain. It was the worst night of my life. And I've had some shit nights, you know.
Wow.
So
that's so I'm so sorry for you, but I'm glad that you're doing better now.
I am feeling much better now. Yesterday was a weird one. Like I couldn't quite catch my breath, but I was like able to do things like, oh, I can make a sandwich. And I felt really proud of myself and make a sandwich, or I like emptied the dishwasher. I'm like, I did it.
I'm always really proud of myself when I empty the dishwasher.
Oh yeah, you know. And I did. Oh, I took the recycling out, and I was like, oh, fresh air. Also, I noticed I could smell stuff because I've been so unwell. I could smell everything. It was really, really weird. Anyway, let's not talk about the horrific nature of my health and existence at this point. But also, I just wanted to thank everyone. Kimberly, thank you for joining us. We've had like a bit of a break from posting like some intense content on our Patreon, but I promise, you know, Derek is going through his move and I'm sorting out my health shit again. So once we've got all of that in line, we'll get back to the Patreon. We'll be posting audio for you and updates and sending out the monthly the annual presents that we promised as well.
I got some really cool pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco that I haven't shared with anybody but my friends.
That's right. Yeah, thank you. So I think it'd be really cool. We could share that. I've got a couple of really cool pictures as well from I think a couple of visits that I did recently. There's a canal trip I had, which I'd really like to share as well. So if you are a Patreon member, thank you for sticking by us. We're sorry we haven't posted a huge amount of like massive content in a while, but big shout out to our existing Patreon members. So our OG, Jesse Christ, Kimberly Johnson, who's with us today, Andrew Zavara, Dilly Bob, and Silent Crisis. Thank you all so much for supporting us on Patreon and for being so wonderful and loyal and faithful and just really great people. If you would like to join our wonderful patrons in supporting us a little bit financially, go to patreon.com/history's greatest idiots, where you can get behind the scenes pictures from our lives. You can get exclusive recordings. You can get annual gifts when you stay with us for a year or 2 years. You can get a free gift when you join, and also a shout out on the podcast, as well as random stuff whenever we feel like, hey, this is cool. I bet people would like to see about this, because we don't really share that stuff on social media. So, you know, sign up. And if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, go to @History's Greatest Idiots. You can find us there. And over on YouTube, you can find us just at History's Greatest Idiots again. We're over there, and we've got all of the videos and some really interesting thumbnails occasionally when I can be asked. So yeah, really enjoyed doing that. Derek, you weren't here last week. We had my good friend Peter Barnes on, who I used to work with over at Inside the Ropes. He did a really good episode on Floyd Landis, who
the
cyclist guy who brought down Lance Armstrong, and who is made such a ridiculous decision in his cycling career that there is now a term called doing a Landis.
It's always good when you get your name verbed.
Exactly. Like doing a Landis is like, I lost in the last leg, and I know, is this just starting or just ending? Ollie, this is just starting. You're here 14 minutes in and we're still rambling. So don't worry, you're here right at the very start. So Floyd Landis did a thing. He got beaten in one leg and he was already doping. So you'd think that the smart thing would be like, okay, well, I'm not going to go over the top and make it obvious that I'm cheating, but instead, he decided to break away from the cycling pack with 96 miles to go in a race and just obliterate the field. And like, yay, I won. Okay, we need to do a drugs test on you because that's not human. And he had, I think Peter said, I can't remember if it was 8 or 11 times the amount of testosterone a man is supposed to have in his system at the time. But he was basically a couple of rhinos on a bike.
There you go. Yeah,
So
it's.
it was,
I want to see that now, though. Couple
yeah, it was
rhinos on a
pretty
bike.
fucked up. I think you can, and apparently cycling commentators, and this is something I learned from Peter, cycling commentators get really suspicious. So they'll like drop hints. They're like, this seems amazing. This seems unbelievable. This is incredible. This seems weird. And like they're saying that while stuff is happening. They're like, this shouldn't be humanly possible. But actually, if you read between the lines, what they're saying is he's going to get drug tested at the end of this. And if it's EPO, we wouldn't be surprised. So, like
That's hilarious.
it's really cool that they did this. And he played me an extract after the show, and I was like, oh yeah, they're dropping massive hints, because they're doing the hyperbole thing that commentators do, that tone of voice where they're like, oh yeah, look at the superhuman effort and the consistency in the effort, and we really like the staging and stuff. But actually what they're saying is, yeah, he's on massive amounts of drugs, and yeah, he's clearly cheating, and this is ridiculous, and why is nobody stepping in, and also he is Floyd Landis, so it's just really funny. But the overriding thing is that Floyd Landis was fucked, but he gave up Lance Armstrong, and that was Lance Armstrong done. So he was the guy that brought down Lance. So
yeah. Well,
there you go. So thank you, Peter, for that episode. That was wonderful. Derek, I'm really glad you're back with us.
I'm appreciative for Peter for filling in and entertaining.
He did a great job.
Good show.
Yeah, I love Peter, and he just got a new job as well. So congratulations, Peter. Really pleased for you. It's definitely something you deserve. So congratulations on that. Well done, mate. But Derek, I have a really interesting one for you today, and it's someone I kind of had at the back of my mind for a while, and I couldn't remember why. And I was like, I always wanted to cover this character because he is really interesting. He is an icon of the 60s and kind of an icon of TV and cinema. He's got his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, really famous guy, notorious voice and presence and stuff. And I couldn't remember why I wanted to feature him. And then I read about his personal life, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's probably why I put him at the back of my mind and forgot about him. So let's talk today about Adam West.
I'm excited for this one.
Yes, TV's Batman and the dangers of fame. So William West Anderson was born on September the 19th, 1928 in Walla Walla, Washington. That's already too many W's in one sentence.
It's my favorite Washington city.
There you go, Walla Walla, Washington. William West Anderson. That's fuck me. His father, Otto Anderson, 1903 to 1984, was a farmer descended from Scania in southern Sweden. Actually, if you look at pictures of him, you're like, yeah, he looks like a big Scandinavian dude, actually. So, yeah, he's a big motherfucker.
Of Adam West or his dad?
Adam West.
Oh, yeah.
He's built like a Viking, a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
That's here for anybody that's watching.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those are matinee idol good looks right there. Chiseled jawline. Yeah. There's a bit of a Max von Sydow thing going on as well. So there's definitely like Scandinavian stuff in there, I think, for sure. Yeah, you can see that kind of like his ancestors would have been pillaging across the North Atlantic before he became famous. And his mother, Audrey Vollen, née Speer, 1906 to 1969, was an opera singer and concert pianist who left her Hollywood dreams to care for her family. That may have been a mistake, and we'll get to why in a second. Following her example, as a young man, West told his father that he intended to go to Hollywood after completing school. His father wasn't particularly happy about that because, traditional, this guy is, he's descended from farmers and stuff. And he like, can you just like have something a bit more middle of the road? Like, no, Dad, I'm going to Hollywood and chasing my dreams. So he wasn't particularly happy. Wes, wow, look at him when he was young.
Sorry, I threw this one up.
No. That's like, this is Hollywood. This will be Hollywood. Like, oh, also that might be from Hawaii. We'll get to Hawaii in a minute because he goes to Hawaii after he's done his tour of service. Okay. So yeah. So following his example, his mother's example, he wants to go to Hollywood. His dad isn't happy. Wes' mother, because she gave up her dreams and really kind of just stayed home and was a homebody, she unfortunately became manic depressive and developed alcoholism. And when West was 12 years old, he found her in bed with the local preacher.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds like the beginning of a bad joke.
That's going to fuck you up right there when you're 12 and you walk in on your mother. That's not good. Anyway, one of West's 6 children, his own kids, his daughter Nina once said of Audrey, his Adam West's mother, there is a curse running through our family, alcohol and manic depression. That's what she suffered from. So it sounds like there's a family history there of mental health issues and dependency issues as well. And we will see in Adam West's later life that his adolescent years, because also his parents divorced when he was 15 and his mother moved to Seattle and he went with her. It's the start. It's the start. We know what's coming, don't we? We've got experience with this. So like his adolescent years, his parents divorcing, his mother's depression, alcoholism, walking in on her when he's 12 years old, having sex with a preacher, like that's a bunch of shit for him to deal with right there when he's young. He goes and lives with her. He's raised by his mother, who's like very artsy, encouraging him to do artsy stuff. Like you kind of need to reconcile some of that stuff before you encourage someone into a field like the arts, because it can kind of lead to serious issues. Which is kind of what we see later on. West attended Walla Walla High School, which sounds like something from a 90s Saturday morning cartoon. During his freshman and sophomore years, and later enrolled in Lakeside School in Seattle. He attended Whitman College, but studied at the University of Puget Sound during the fall semester of 1949. Yeah, I think you've got a picture there. Is that something? Yeah, William W. God, he looks different. Coming from Walla Walla, Washington, is Bill Pretty Boy Anderson. During his 3 years at Lakeside, Bill was earned the following awards and honors. He was a member of the Big L Club, loser, vice president of the High Y Club, varsity football letterman for 2 years. That doesn't surprise me. He's a big dude. Varsity track letterman also, doesn't surprise me. In his senior year, Bill became a member of the Lakeside legislative body. Also, he's like quite a good talker, as we'll find out. Adam West.
That makes sense.
Yeah, he's a very good orator. He's got an intense baritone voice as well, but he's not. Right, okay, let's just get this out there. He's not a good actor, Adam West. He's a lovely guy, but he is not one of your. He's not like your Larry Olivier, you fucking Daniel Day-Lewis, Leonardo DiCaprio. He's not one of your like, oh yeah, that guy, that actor. He is one of the best of his like.
Yeah, he's kind of campy.
Very campy. Even when he's being serious, you're like, it's just fucking Adam West. It's like Keanu Reeves. Really nice guy. Genuinely wonderful human being. Mm-hmm. Not a great actor.
His move to action is kind of cool. But yes.
Iconic in many, many ways. But you could never say that Keanu Reeves performance really like took my breath away. Like he deserves an Oscar. You're unlikely to say that. I've seen Much Ado About Nothing. I've seen Keanu Reeves try to do serious acting, and it's not a good look for him. He works in a certain field, same as Adam West.
Did Adam West try to do serious acting though?
Oh yeah, one of his conditions, and we'll get to that later. One of his conditions for doing the Batman movie was watch your mouth, Lev. He's a great actor. I'm not worried about anyone arguing this point with me. No, he one of his conditions for doing the Batman film, because he wanted like more than they were willing to pay him, and he was like, okay, I'll take the lower offer, but you have to put me in a serious non-Batman, non-campy role. And they were like, yeah, deal. He did, and it was a fucking disaster. So we'll get to that in a bit. Oh dear. So he's finished his studies in the semester of 1949. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in literature and a minor in psychology from Whitman College, where he was a member of the Gamma Zeta chapter of the Beta Theta Pi fraternity. That's also entirely too many Greek letters in one sentence. And he also participated in the speech and debate team. And I believe you got a picture of old Willie West right there. Wow, look how studious he looks. That fucking chiseled jaw, man. Holy shit. Those glasses don't do him any favors, but man, you feel like he could either be a boxer or an actor. You know,
Oh
like,
yeah, were contacts a thing back then though? Because he
I
should have
don't
rocked
think
those.
so. I think that was like the 70s
I mean,
contacts
he
came in.
could have probably picked some better frames.
He could, I mean, who am I to talk? You know, I'm still wearing the fucking, you know, Michael Caine glasses, but you know, he's got the looks. I would say that Hollywood would immediately like. He walks into an audition in the 60s and people are like, right, Western for you, or like romantic lead for you, like immediately. These pictures are getting gradually worse. They kind of are, actually, because the classes selection, they do get better. I will promise, Brittany. They do get better. Kimberly, sorry, not Brittany. I'm thinking of one of the many women that Adam West slept with. We'll get to that later.
Oh, jeez.
Drafted into the US Army during the Korean War, he served as an announcer on American Forces Network television. Doesn't surprise me that that's kind of the role he was born to play with that voice. Perfect announcer voice, Adam West. After his discharge, he worked as a milkman before moving to, I know, randomly, I guess, like he's got out of the service. He just wants a quick, easy job.
That's why everybody makes that joke about you're the milkman's kid, maybe.
That's it, yeah, because it's Adam West and he's porking everyone. So after working as a milkman, he's moved to Hawaii to pursue a career in television, which I guess in the 50s was a thing. You could go and be in television in Hawaii, but local stations, affiliates, stuff like that, it makes sense. And I think that's where that picture comes in.
Yeah, it's where he was walking around like this, and they were like, "Hey, you want to be on TV?"
Yeah, you there, the man with the wooden surfboard. You want to be on TV? Stay away from the shingle. What the fuck's wrong with you? While in Hawaii, West was picked for a role as the sidekick on a local TV program, the Kini Popo Show, which is the most Hawaiian sounding thing I've ever heard in my life. Don't know what that means. It also featured a chimp named Peaches, because it's the 50s and you've got to have a fucking animal in there somewhere.
Well, I gotta find this. How do you spell that?
So Kini, Kini, and Popo, Popo. So, and you'll probably spot Adam West straight away because it'll just be Adam West with a fucking chimp. So, you know,
chimp,
you can find a picture of that. That'd be amazing. And apparently West later took over as host of the show. So he was there long enough to become established in it. And if you got a picture of him looking very fetching there in a hat, that looks, oh, look at that. Oh, and he's got a ukulele, of course, because he's in Hawaii, and he's got the neck, what's that, the floral thing around his neck.
It's from his scene in one of the Kini Popo show, but I can't find the chimp. So
no, but that's probably for the best. That chimps have a habit of like ripping people's faces off. So yeah, he looks, I mean, that looks like exactly what I expected from that show, just a handsome dude wearing traditional Hawaiian garb. So he took over he took over as host of the show, but in 1959 West moved with his wife and 2 children to Hollywood, where he took the stage name Adam West, which is way better for his career but less fitting for his later behavior than Willie West, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. With his 6'2" frame, handsome features, and deep baritone voice, West had all the physical elements to become a big star in Hollywood, minus the acting ability. And he soon appeared in the film The Young Philadelphians, which he co-starred, but it starred Paul Newman. So that's a pretty big, we've just landed in Hollywood. Oh, you're handsome. Do you want to be in a Paul Newman film? Okay, then. That's a big deal back then. He also had guest starring roles in a number of television westerns, and I kind of, as soon as I saw him young, I'm like, you're going to be in a western at some point. It's the 50s and 60s. They're fucking ubiquitous westerns.
Had to be.
My dad, like, huge western fan. He hates modern westerns, but like the cowboys and Indians thing, he like fucking grew up on that shit. Even in the UK, we got like Bonanza and all of those fucking TV shows and films. Like him and his dad used to bond over those.
Yeah.
Oh, they loved it. That John Wayne shit. He had guest starring roles in a number of westerns, on 3 Warner Brother television westerns which aired on ABC: Sugarfoot, Colt 45, and Lawman. West played the role of Doc Holliday. See that? He's weird enough. Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
The frontier dentist and gunfighter. West also appeared playing different characters in 2 episodes of Maverick opposite James Garner. Huge show at the time. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, he looks perfect for a western. Look at that. He's also got that like that thing in the 50s where like, oh, they're big, tall, handsome guys, but like they've got that Jimmy Stewart skinny arm thing going on, which is like,
Yeah.
okay, you're not even going to slightly hit the weights. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't work. Doesn't matter. So West also appeared in different characters in 2 episodes of Maverick. Like I said, took it 2 tickets to 10 strike. That's hard to say. And A Fellow's Brother in 1958. He guest starred in Warner Brothers detective series Hawaiian Eye and Bourbon Street Beat, or Bourbon Street Beat, I guess it would be. I said
Okay.
Bourbon like the fucking biscuit. On January the 10th, 1961, West appeared as a young, ambitious deputy who foolishly confronts a gunfighter named Clay Jackson, portrayed by Jack Mahoney. I'd imagine that's a big name from the time. I don't recognize it. In the episode The Man from Kansas on the NBC Western series Laramie.
That sounds familiar, but I'm not like a huge old Western fan.
I think it's kind of like if they carry on churning out superhero movies at the rate they are currently, I think people in 20 years' time will be like, Avengers, there were like a million of those. I can't tell you which ones they were because they're just like everywhere and they're super successful. I think you've got a picture there of him like in a detective role.
Yes. Yeah.
This
from one that you were talking about.
It looks kind of Bondish, doesn't he?
Super Bondish.
Yeah.
He could have been a Bond, I think. Maybe. Not
offered the role.
English.
He was offered the role and he turned it down because he said James Bond needs to be English. Well, that's what he says. I'm not tying that one down to the strains of 100% reality, but I wouldn't put it past Cubby Broccoli, because if you think about like the physical nature of Sean Connery and then you think about Adam West, it's like not a million miles away. Both tall, handsome. You know, Connery was apparently a weightlifter. You can't fucking tell, but like I've got to stop slanging people off. I'm not a weightlifter, but Sean Connery was apparently a weightlifter, and you see him in those James Bond films, you're like, no, you fucking weren't, you liar. Maybe you tossed the caber around in Scotland, but you weren't lifting any weights. So anyway,
I feel like the 50s and 60s weightlifters, they lifted different weights, or they were just built.
They weren't doing steroids.
Is that what it was?
I
don't know. I didn't do steroids, and I feel like I am larger than the average 50s.
I also feel like the nutrition was different back then. It's like, oh, let's just have egg steak and then I'll go and smoke 1 million cigarettes and fucking have a load of beer and stuff. Whereas like now people like creatine and protein and like all of that shit, you know, whatever supplements they take. I don't work out. But like, you know, I feel like once Arnold came around, then like all bets were off. You couldn't just be fucking Jack LaLanne, like spindly fucking weird looking arms, because like muscularity was very different back then. They were big dudes, but like the ideal man version back then, they weren't like super muscular and ripped and stuff. Connery was a weightlifting champion 10 years before he was cast as Bond. Okay, that probably makes sense. And that actually, like, if you look at someone like Dave Bautista's recent transformation, which is an interesting one, like he's dropped like 100 pounds of muscle.
Oh, good.
He's like down to like 200 pounds now. He looks completely different. So yeah, actually he needed to, because he's in his 50s and he was fucking enormous from the age of like 19 onwards. So he needed to lose that weight before he died a young death, you know? So
yeah,
probably can't carry that much muscle.
Yeah, a little bit harder and harder to pump blood through all that after a while.
Exactly. So back to Adam West. He played Christopher Rolfe in the episode Step Over of ABC's The Rifleman, which aired on April 25th, 1961. And West also made guest appearances on Perry Mason in 61 and 62. Really big show back then. Hugely popular.
2 shows in a row I've heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's doing a bunch of guest spots. He's getting like bit of a name for himself as, oh, that's a go-to TV guy. Like he's useful for a couple of episodes, and like that's in Hollywood at this time, and like right up until the streaming time, those kind of like bit part appearances on this show here and this show there, that's enough to make a good career, a good living. You know, you can make a good amount of money from doing that. The one guy that I always think of is Tony Shalhoub, who's just like before he did Monk was in like fucking everything.
Oh yeah, okay.
He was in like an episode here, an episode there, and he was doing all these different roles. And then he did like that fucking sci-fi space thing with what was it called? Anyway,
Was it Deep Space Nine?
No, it was like a parody of Star Trek with like Tim Toolman, what's his name, and Sigourney Weaver and shit.
Yeah,
and Alan Rickman. What's that called?
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, he was in that, and he's like, "That's it. That's like you're set now. You've done this amazing film. Your career is made. It doesn't matter what you do now. You're always going to be the guy from." That's going to drive me mad. Anyway, he was in that. So, moving on from Perry Mason, his Galaxy Quest, great film. Go and watch Galaxy Quest. It's amazing.
Sorry.
Also, sorry, I'm going back again. They did a kind of a 25, 30 year celebration of Galaxy Quest or whatever it was. And they were talking about Alan Rickman because he just passed away a few years before or something. And Justin Long was sharing this story of Alan Rickman had been doing a play before him, and Justin Long inherited his dressing room. And Alan Rickman had left him a present because obviously they're friends from the set. And it's this like really elaborate like flower and fresh fruit display. And it had a little letter on it. It said, "To my dear friend Justin," and Justin Long opens it up, and it just says "fuck off," like that, and the letter on the inside. And I was just like, yeah, that's Alan Rickman. That's his kind of humor, I think. But that's a great film. Go and watch Galaxy Quest. It's so funny. So he's done Perry Mason. He was a small town journalist, Dan Southern, in The Case of the Barefaced Witness. His other roles included as a folk singer Peter Norland in The Case of the Bogus Books. So in 1959 to 1962, he became a regular on the American television series Robert Taylor's Detectives in its third season. So he became a series regular, which is like another step in your career in the right direction, I think. You know, you're starting to like, okay, you're going to get a 7-episode run here. Or like you're going to come in 7 episodes or 8 episodes in the year. So that's useful.
Yeah, well, regular work is good. It's almost like being a contract actor, but they're not doing that at that time.
No, they've got like bit players. They might sign people to like kind of sort of contracts, non-exclusive maybe, but like you'll be contracted for like 8 appearances in this show. You might have a no-compete clause with like a specific network, but he's getting some brief appearances in there. He also appeared in the 1963 film Soldier in the Rain, starring Jackie Gleason and Steve McQueen. That's an odd combination.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
I know it sounds interesting. Adam West, Jackie Gleason, and Steve McQueen. Like, what the fuck is that going to be like? And he starred as Colonel Dan McCready, the ill-fated mission commander of Mars Gravity Probe 1 in the 1964 film Robinson Crusoe on Mars, which is the laziest fucking Hollywood name.
That's okay.
Shit. Robinson Crusoe on Mars. That's one for Google. No one's going to examine that Google search closely. Like, okay, that's basically exactly what it sounds like. That same year, this is like the highlight. Have you found a picture?
Oh, I found the best picture.
Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Tell me, we've got Adam. What the fuck? So you get the people listening to this after the fact. It's not being displayed, but he's like, what is he doing? He's like massaging the jaw of like a chimp or something in a spacesuit.
Yeah, that's from the movie.
That's thank God for Star Wars. Holy shit. Is there more? Is there more from that terrible film? Just the name Robinson Crusoe in space. It's about to get weirder, amazingly, if you could even think of it. But the same year he does this film. Oh, there's another picture of him with the monkey. What the fuck is going on? It's a pug. It's a pug in a spacesuit. That Kimberly is right. That is really disturbing.
Why is my favorite part of this? I'm going to rent this movie now.
Why? And also, like, he's looking at the pug. The pug's staring at him. They're sharing a moment. Why is the pug presenting? I don't get it. Like, what is going on there? He's
driving the ship.
The pug is playing with the radio or something. There's something weird going on there.
Oh, my.
As far as still shots go, Robinson Crusoe on Mars looks like the most. If you're high and you want to rent a film, I think maybe that's the one for you. Also, is there more? There's more. Oh my god, this looks weird. So he's on Mars now, clearly, and in a cave or something, and some dude's presenting with a glowing rock.
Or
What?
cauliflower.
Or a cauliflower.
Here, sir,
Yeah,
you
or a
hungry?
cauliflower. There's celery in the background there, maybe some broccoli. What the fuck is going on in this film?
Painter's cap.
Yeah. Also, he's wearing some sort of tunic, some sort of like green tunic. What the fuck is going on? And
Okay.
this is interesting because I was just going to say, big Kirk vibes coming off him here. The same year he did Robinson Crusoe on Mars, he was cast alongside William Shatner in the pilot for the proposed series Alexander the Great, playing Cleander to Shatner's Alexander.
Oh,
there are no more lands to conquer. Like, what the fuck are you doing? William Shatner and Adam West, two notoriously terrible actors, in like a big budget production of a historic figure. At the same year he does Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Have you got the film poster there? Tell me you got the fucking film. Look, that is gorgeous. 1950s B-movie sci-fi stuff in its glory. Why is he cuddling Tarzan?
I don't know.
What the fuck is going on with this? I mean, you got the usual thing. Barren planet scene. You got Earth in the background. You got fucking flying saucers. You got a man in a spacesuit with a monkey on his shoulder and a ray gun. But then just fucking some Tarzan looking dude as well. What? Scientifically authentic. It says on the poster this film is scientifically authentic. Fuck right off. Not having that at all.
There we
Not
go.
even close. There
it is.
Somebody clip that. That is just amazing. I can't believe we found that.
That's great.
Fucking never trust Hollywood. I swear to God. So he's done that. He's done the film with William Shatner, and at this point, like, he's done enough crazy shit where people are starting to take notice of Adam West. And the series was not picked up. Surprisingly, Alexander the Great. The pilot wasn't broadcast until 1968, when it was repackaged as a TV film to capitalize on Shatner's and West's later fame. So, like, they've both become huge names at this point in popular culture, like 60s icons, these two. And they're like, we can make a fuckload of money from this terrible film with these two jobbing actors at the time. West was apparently unsurprised by the rejection, later noting that it turned out to be one of the worst scripts I've ever read, and it was one of the worst things I've ever done. And that's saying something, because Adam West has done some right old shite. In 1964, West played Dr. Clayton Harris, a handsome young physician, shocker, in 2 episodes of the sitcom Petticoat Junction. That's interesting name, very 60s name, that actually.
Isn't that a kids show?
I think it's like some sort of, it sounds like a kind of a romantic hospital soap opera type thing. I could be wrong. Maybe it's some sort of fucking psychedelic, like neo-German fucking cutting edge thing. I don't know. I doubt it. In the same year, West starred in an episode of the ABC Outer Limits series titled The Invisible Enemy. Works for him. He can act against an invisible enemy. No problem. You just go big. And he was also in an episode of Bewitched titled Love is Blind, which was released, in which West played a character called Kermit, an artist who marries Gertrude. Sadly, not a frog. That would have been foreshadowing right there.
I was excited for that.
Isn't that like hee-haw? Probably is, Kimberly. Maybe it's... Yeah, that sounds about right. Man, we are delving into the fucking remnants of TV history here with Adam West. Holy shit. Could you imagine Kermit the Frog with Adam West's voice?
That would be amazing.
Piggy. Fucking hell. In 1965, he was cast in the comedy western The Outlaws Is Coming. That's the name of the thing. Starring the Three Stooges. That works for me. Adam West and the Three Stooges. Holy shit.
I can see that.
Oh yeah, that would probably be a really funny film, actually. The same year he starred in Mara of the Wilderness and in the spaghetti western The Relentless Four. I feel like I've heard of that.
Yeah. Somewhere
Maybe
between, the something 3 and the Magnificent 7.
and the Hateful Eight and
Yeah.
the Famous Five and fucking hell. But now it's time for the big break. So he's done all of these
Okay.
crazy, weird, random fucking Three Stooges, William Shatner, Robinson Crusoe on Mars shit, and a bunch of TV shows in between. But this is the big one. He's had a pretty good career up to this point, but in the early 60s, Ed Graham Productions optioned the television rights to the comic book Batman and planned a straightforward juvenile adventure show, much like The Adventures of Superman and The Lone Ranger, to air on CBS on Saturday mornings. East Coast ABC executive Yale Udoff, a Batman fan in his childhood, contacted ABC executives Harve Bennett and Edgar J. Sherrick, who were already considering developing a television series based on a comic strip action hero, to suggest a prime-time Batman series in the hip and fun style of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I didn't really... I watched The Man from U.N.C.L.E. reruns. I don't remember it being hip or fun. I remember it being a little bit hip, I guess, but
I don't remember
sleuthy.
watching that at all.
I do remember it. My mum was a big fan of that, and I remember watching it with her, and I was like, this isn't bad. This isn't shit, Mum. Thank you. So, it was interesting as well. In the 1964 film, in 1964, film buff Hugh Hefner, let's go with calling him a film buff.
Is that what we're calling him?
That's what we're calling Hugh Hefner. There's Adam West, looking very stiff in that Batman costume. Also, we'll get to the costume in a bit. There are some very deliberate costume choices made, according to West, with that. Oh, yeah. So Hugh Hefner screened all 15 chapters of the 1943 Batman serial at the Playboy Mansion, no doubt in between disappointing orgies. The trendy event received much notice in the press, prompting Columbia to offer the unedited serial to theaters in 1965 as an evening with Batman and Robin in one long marathon showing. And that sounds like fun to me as a film fan. Yeah. Get a bunch of fans in one place, have a marathon screening, get a bunch of food in. I'm up for that,
The Batman movie?
Of the 1943 Batman serial. So we're talking like black and white fucking original Batman series, and it will probably be like a couple of hours, so it works,
Like, okay. Yeah, no, I guess that would be fun.
Yeah, it would be campy and stuff, and I think that's probably what influenced what would come next. Oh, there's a great screenshot as well, the two of them posing. Look at Burt Ward. How fucking young that kid is. Holy shit. Burt Ward, when he was cast as Robin, 19 years old.
Huh.
And Adam West, 37. So, yeah, we'll get to the fucked up part of that in a minute as well. So this caused a lot of people to pay attention, and the re-release was successful enough to inspire the development of a television series based on the property. When negotiations between CBS and Gresham stalled, DC Comics quickly re-optioned rights and made a deal with ABC, which farmed the rights out to 20th Century Fox to produce the series. That was something that used to happen back then. I don't think it happens now, where everyone's like, IP, give me the intellectual property, give me all the rights. I want this one, So studios would work together to like share profits. It does happen occasionally, like with Disney and Sony, but it's rare.
Well, they just buy each other out now. Disney just says, "I own you now," is how they share intellectual property.
Yeah. Here's $70 billion, Mr. Murdoch. We own Fox now. So, in turn, 20th Century Fox themselves handed the project over to William Dossier. That's an interesting name. Willie Dossier. And his production company, Greenway Productions. ABC and Fox expected a hip, fun, and yet serious adventure show. However, Dossier, who'd never read any comics in his fucking life, concluded after reading just a couple of chapters of Batman comics for research that the only way to make the show work was to do it as a pop art campy comedy bullshit thing. And to be honest, at the time he was probably right, because you do Christian Bale Batman in the 60s, people are like, whoa,
oh yeah,
okay, that's too much.
That would have been that would have been way too much. I think I like the way it was.
I do too. I don't mind it at all.
That really felt like the way the comic books were to me.
I think in the 60s, the Batman comics, and because we were talking like I wouldn't say it was a down period for comics. I mean, in terms of sales, it was, but comics had gone because of the code, the comic book code and stuff. They'd gone very silly, and Batman and Robin and stuff, and it like the implications of the Batman and Robin relationship, which were discussed in an actual trial at one point. It had gone very strange and very silly, and there wasn't like the edginess that came back in the 80s thanks to people like Alan Moore and the guy who did Sin City, who's become a fucking Nazi now, Frank Miller, I want to say. Those two guys basically rejuvenated the comic book industry between them. And Batman at the time was very childish. I think it's fair to say.
Okay.
So, originally, espionage novelist Eric Ambler was to have scripted a TV movie that would launch the television series. However, he dropped out after he learned that Dossier's approach was going to be super campy and crazy, which, you know, he's like an espionage novelist. It doesn't make sense for him to write it if that's what they're going for. So
it would be pretty hard to write if you were like the writer for Bond, and then they were like, "Here, can you do this?"
Yeah, it'd be like Raymond Chandler writing like a fucking kids TV show. It's like, it just doesn't work, you know. Eventually, 2 sets of screen testing tests were filmed. One with Adam West and Burt Ward, and the other with Lyle Waggoner and Peter Dale. Yeah. So obviously West and Ward won because they were the campiest of the two, and and were cast. Burt Ward, 19 years old, as previously mentioned, and West, 37 years old and twice divorced at this point, with 2 kids, I think maybe 3 at this point. So Burt Ward had dated 2 women in his life when he met Adam West. That all changed very, very soon afterwards, and we'll get to that later.
Good wingman?
I mean, wingman doesn't even come close. Basically, Burt Ward is on the plane, and Adam West is flying the fucking plane straight towards a mountain of women.
Okay.
Basically, that's what he's doing. Lorenzo Semple Jr. had signed on as head screenwriter. He wrote the pilot script and generally wrote in a pop art adventure style, which perfect for what they wanted. Stanley Ralph Boss, Stanford Sherman, and Charles Hoffman were scriptwriters who generally leaned more towards campy comedy, and in Ross's case, sometimes outright slapstick and satire. So exactly what you come to expect from Batman, basically, at this point. And here we go. Some of the pop art imagery that we've got coming up, that is just as classic a Batman image from the 60s as you can get. It's so insane in so many different ways. Yeah, but
it was, hear that picture.
You can. And actually, it's interesting because this picture, the kind of the stylization, the colors, the Dutch angles, all of the stuff that go into the Batman thing, ABC wanted it. They made sure that it happened, and they knew it would work. It was one of those rare moments where the people behind, like the money men behind the series, were 100% right with what they wanted, and they knew it was going to work. Usually they're almost always wrong, but you know, those show notes that people get, they're like, no, this is fucking stupid. ABC were right on the money with this one. They changed the premiere date from fall to January 1966, with the network having only 2 early evening half-hour time slots available. The show was split into 2 parts to air in 30-minute installments on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So you'd be left with a cliffhanger connecting the 2 episodes.
Smart.
Really fucking smart. And it was similar to what old movie serials would do, but they did it in such a way that it became part of the Batman storytelling thing. It was a perfect reset as well, because you get previously on Batman, and that's where a lot of that comes from, you know, in TV, where you have like erstwhile on, you know, like previously on. It's all there, and a lot of that was influenced by these Batman shows.
It changed TV then. I can just keep hearing all of this. It's like,
you can hear the theme music, you can hear the punches, you can hear the from the Penguin, and who was Burgess Meredith. They had some fucking serious actors. The guy who played the Riddler was like a Shakespearean actor. and we'll get to that dude in a minute. He's interesting. Some ABC affiliates were unhappy that ABC included a fourth commercial minute in every Batman episode. One affiliate refused to air the series entirely. They changed their mind quickly. The network insisted it needed the extra advertising revenue, and I think it's because they knew they had a massive hit on their hands here. The Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, and the Mad Hatter, villains who originated in the comic books, all appeared in the series. And we've got some great pictures here. Look at what was the guy who played the Joker? His name always goes from my mind. Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
He was like a legitimately brilliant actor as well. Another really quite big name at the time, maybe coming towards the end of his career, but earlier in his life, Cesar Romero was in some big films. Burgess Meredith there before the Rocky films, about 10 years before the Rocky films, maybe a bit more.
Still sounding like, yeah.
He's gonna murder you, see? Like Burgess Meredith has got one of the most distinctive voices of anyone ever. It was basically they wanted to make the series villain driven because they realized that Burt Ward was too intense and Adam West couldn't really act. He could do camp, but he couldn't really act. So the plots were all deliberately villain-driven. According to the producers, Frank Gorshin was selected to portray the Riddler because he had been a Batman fan since childhood, and he was also like a trained, serious actor and like a dancer and shit. So he could like bring some real physicality to the Riddler. And Catwoman was portrayed by 3 different actresses, all of them kind of iconic as this role. Julie Newmar in the first 2 seasons, by Lee Merriweather in the feature film based on the series, and Eartha Kitt in the 3rd and final season. Eartha Kitt, amazing human and like really cool voice as well. The show was extraordinarily popular in its first season and was considered the biggest TV phenomena of the mid-1960s. There's a saying that came out of the 60s. The 60s were 3 things: the Beatles, Beatniks, and Batman. That's how big the show was.
I mean, that show was big enough that I was rewatching it in the 80s.
Me too. In the 90s, on like morning television in the UK, I was still watching that shit as like a fucking 12, 13-year-old. That was still showing it at like 7:30 in the morning. That's how crazy, you know. On like Channel 4, like at the point in time, you know, satellite television was coming in, we were starting to get more channels. We had 4 channels, and Channel 4 was still showing Batman from 30 fucking years earlier on like at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Longevity right there.
That's syndication money that you can only dream of for most actors, you know.
Nobody's getting that these days.
No, of course not with streaming. And there's the Riddler as well. I did say his name, Frank Gorshin, as the Riddler. Just a really interesting character. It doesn't.
When was this Riddler?
Right. So we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Frank Gorshin got himself a new agent, and his agent was like, "You deserve more money," and the network were like, "Fuck you, we want to keep it all." So he took a season off and then came back for the last season. So they just recast it, and people were like, "That is nothing like the original Riddler." Anyway, it didn't matter. The average Nielsen rating for Batman in the first season was 25, meaning 25% of the available viewing audience for that time was watching Batman. That's a quarter of American households who had a TV. So 55 million households in the US in 1965.
Feels like Super Bowl numbers.
I know. It's crazy numbers. So even though there were like 193 million people in the US at the time, only 55 million of them apparently had, 55 million of them are considered households, and 90% of the households at that point in time had TVs. So roughly 14 million people a week were tuning into every single, and there were 2 episodes a week. So, you know, close to 30 million people over 2 nights tuned in to watch Batman each week in the first season. And there's only 55 million households in the US at the time. That's fucking crazy numbers right there.
Yeah. He's flexing. Sorry.
He's flexing on them haters. For perspective, in its last season, the critically acclaimed Breaking Bad, widely considered one of the greatest TV shows of all time, pulled in an average of 8 million viewers for its final season, because it had 1 million when it started, and then by the end, I think the final episode had 10.6 or something million viewers, a really big number for AMC at the time, because AMC, they brought out hit after hit after hit, but these were huge numbers for them. But Batman was doing 14 million on a Wednesday night. Fucking easy numbers,
I mean, asterisk though, for AMC, they got 800 different channels to compete with. Batman had 4.
Batman had 4, but also AMC available in a lot more homes than Batman was at the time. So it balances out really, really well. And also it just became event television, which is something that you can't buy these days. I mean, I think the last one would have been Game of Thrones, maybe. That was an event thing. Maybe Succession, you could argue, was event television for some people. Obviously Monday Night Football and shit like that. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, I said I caught on late on the Succession one. I think here, Monday Night Football is event television for some people, or was.
Totally. Specific basketball games, maybe, fucking the what's that? The college trade thing when they go up to the majors. What's that? The fucking
the draft.
The draft. People fucking set their watches to that. That's crazy. We don't really have that in the UK. I think it depends on the demographic. A lot of old people watch soap operas, because in the UK, soap operas are quite serious drama. They're not high campy bullshit that you get in some parts of the world. But really, in the UK, most of it is now dominated by streaming stuff. People my age and younger, nobody watches terrestrial television anymore. So, it's changed. That world of the Batman thing, it was a golden era for television, and Batman was one of those shows that defined it. Star Trek, a bunch of stuff in the 60s were huge shows. But anyway, so head screenwriter Semple's participation in the series decreased in the second season. In his biography, Back to the Batcave, Adam West explained to Jeff Rovin, to whom he dictated the biography after rejecting an offer to contribute to the official Batman Bat book written by Joel Eisner. So when the work started on the second season, following the completion of the feature film, Dossier, his immediate deputy Howie Horowitz, and the rest of the cast and crew rushed their preparations. So they didn't. ABC were like, we've got a fucking hit on our hands, go. There was no attempt to flesh out the characters or maybe develop the themes more. They're just no, camp, just fucking go kitsch, insane.
No prep, just do what you've been doing.
Just get back on the fucking treadmill. Thus, they failed to give themselves enough time to determine what they wanted to do with the series during the second season. So it was just more of the same. John Astin replacing Frank Gershin as the Riddler for a pair of episodes when Gershin's new agents, William Morris, who were quite famous as agents, I think, demanded more money because it's on in 30 million fucking homes a week, you bastards. Give him more money. And they were on pennies. So we'll get to the wages in a minute. I just want to say, obviously, wages are very different now. So I checked, and I do like to do my conversions for inflation. But Burt Ward was on $700 an episode for Batman. The conversion rate is 10 times, so he was on $7,000 in today's money, but that's not a lot of money even for the 60s. So we'll get to Adam West's paycheck in a minute, and he was doing a bit better, but most of the actors, that's not horrible, but he's one of the biggest stars in the world, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a rookie contract.
It was, and actually he paid for that because people who were oh, this guy's been in a couple of movies, they were on double what Burt Ward was. And Cesar Romero was on $3,600 an episode and stuff. So, obviously these are experienced people. So they were paying people by the fact that they've been around for a while, which makes sense, and wish it still existed because I'd be earning a fortune. So by season 3, ratings were falling badly because they just they'd done the usual Hollywood thing. This is a hit. Just keep churning it out instead of let's develop this richly and like reward the audience and cultivate this show and maybe put some more effort in. It's just, no, more shit at the fan. Do it now. So that's what they did. And the series' future seemed really uncertain. To attract new viewers, Dossier opted to introduce a female character. He came up with the idea of using Batgirl, who in civilian identity will be Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara. He asked the editors of the Batman comics to develop further the character, who had made her debut in the 1966 issue of Detective Comics. If you know anything about Batman comics, Barbara Gordon is like a pivotal figure in that like whole universe, particularly in the Alan Moore comic The Killing Joke, which is also one of the comic books, named, I think, a band. The Killing Joke kind of took their name from that comic book.
Okay.
It changed. It was one of those comic books, along with Watchmen and Sin City and The Dark Knight Returns, that changed the trajectory of the comic book industry, because in the opening scene of the comic book, Barbara Gordon is shot by the Joker and paralyzed.
Oh, damn.
And that's her character for the next 50 years. 50 years, 40 years, she's in a wheelchair. So, and that comic book gets dark because it's kind of hinted at the end in this one-shot comic book series that the Batman kills Joker at the end.
This doesn't look like a wheelchair.
It does not. No, it looks fucking amazing though. Who wouldn't want to ride all around on that in like the center of Arizona or the UK? Like, that looks fucking amazing. That costume though, holy shit. That's Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. So to convince ABC executives to introduce Batgirl as a regular on the show, a promotional short featuring Yvonne Craig as Batgirl and Tim Herbert as Killer Moth was produced. Killer Moth, really? Fucking desperate by season 3. Batgirl was the first superheroine to appear in an ongoing capacity on television, like real kind of watershed moment. Along with this season, also Eartha Kitt, an African-American lady debuting as Catwoman and having like vaguely romantic encounters with Batman as well. So like really progressive moments in television happening in the 3rd season. And that, oh my God. Fucking drinking a milkshake. What is happening? I think that's Julie Newmar. Yeah, that's from like season 1 or 2. Oops. So Batman drinking a milkshake. I
switched to that yet.
That's okay. Any reason to see Julie Newmar in a catsuit? So the show was reduced to it didn't work, unfortunately, these gimmicks. The show was reduced to once a week with primarily self-contained episodes, although the following week's villain would be teased and introduced in a tag at the end of each episode, similar to a soap opera or fucking modern Marvel films, really, if you think about the post-credit scenes. Accordingly, the narrator's cliffhanger phrases were mainly eliminated, which is a shame, and most episodes ended with him engaging viewers or encouraging viewers to watch the show the following week, which is pretty fucking desperate, if you ask me. It's like, where have you all gone? Come back next week. Jesus Christ.
Not so much the cliffhanger anymore.
No. Join us next week as the Riddler is back with another terrible plan for Gotham. It's like, please stay. I love you. Why do you keep rejecting me? So Aunt Harriet was reduced to just 2. Aunt Harriet was a character that was introduced because there were too many men living in this 60s house. You had Batman, you had Robin, you had Alfred, and a bunch of people were like, they're having sex together. So they introduced Aunt Harriet, so it'd be more wholesome. So introducing this like tired pensioner into the household setup was somehow making it more heteronormative. So that's hilarious.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Why not?
She's not like hanging out with these guys, going to bars or anything. And Harriet was reduced to just 2 cameo appearances during the 3rd season. There she is, making the tea and helping Alfred around the house. And nobody's doing anything illegal here, officer. So she was reduced to 2 cameo appearances during the 3rd season due to Madge Blake's poor health and the issues of trying to fit in as many characters, because at this point they had series regulars: Batman, Robin, Batgirl, Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, and the guest villain, plus the sidekicks of the guest villain who just get battered each week. Like, it was too much. So they cut her basically, and they're like, nobody thinks they're gay anymore. You can go away now. So, and we got another amazing picture. Is this like the Batcave?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What is this pink? What is the pink cowl? What is that?
It was Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Ah, Susan G. Komen or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, that's what it is. And
No
also,
idea what's going on there.
I love that we've got the Bat computer in the background. Not two separate words, just Bat computer, one word. And it's just a series of fucking dials and switches, like they're trying to solve the Enigma code or something. Jesus, how futuristic! I mean, in true at the 60s, you know, you did need a fucking cave to fit a computer in at the time, so that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Another cast change during the final series was Julie Newmar, a popular recurring guest villain as Catwoman, being replaced by Eartha Kitt, singer-actress. She assumed the role as Newmar was working on the film McKenna's Gold at the time and thus unable to appear. I've never heard of that. In the United States, Kitt's performance in the series marked the second mainstream television success of an African-American female, following Nichelle Nichols as Lieutenant Uhura in Star Trek, and continued breaking the racial boundaries at the time. And Eartha Kitt has got one of the most unique voices of any human being in history. If you've ever, this is a random aside because she's done a lot in her career, but if you've ever watched the 90s or early 2000s Disney film The Emperor's New Groove with fucking David Spade and John Goodman, like the Emperor Cusco or whatever it is, and he turns into a llama, and she is the main villain in it, Eartha Kitt, and it's an amazing performance alongside Patrick Warburton as her like bumbling sidekick. I can't remember his name now, but her performance in that, I was like, oh, that is some work right there. But yeah, look at her, man, she's gorgeous. And is that the Matador? And they've got Batgirl. There's a lot of S&M shit going on here. Like, what the fuck? It really does. And actually, we'll get to that later. So Eartha Kitt appears. It's not enough to save the series. Everything's on a downward spiral at this point. Kitt's performance as Catwoman would also later inspire, unfortunately, Halle Berry's portrayal of the character in the 2004 film Catwoman, in which Berry would mimic Kitt's purrs. It's less said about that film, the better. That is one of the worst films you will ever see in your life. It's fucking appalling. And this is like the film she did after she won an Oscar. So she's like,
yes,
$7 million? Thank you. I'll take that film role. Oh, you don't want me to act? That's okay. I'll take a holiday. You know?
There was two in a row that were terrible. So.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like sometimes there's that curse of like, you win an Oscar and you follow it with something right shit. You know, like I feel like Eddie Redmayne won for The Theory of Everything, where he played like, what's his name? The physicist. Stephen Hawking, yeah. And he followed it up with like Jupiter Ascending or some shit where he's like, oh, I'm a space prince. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm paying my mortgage off. Like fucking $10 million or something because you won an Oscar. And so the nature of the scripts in the third series and the acting started to enter into realms of surrealism. Here we go. Example on screen now, you've got Adam West as Batman wearing fucking shorts, surfing on a yellow board, yellow shorts. It's kind of gone off. They've jumped the shark.
In that episode, there is a shark, and from his handy dandy bat utility belt, he pulls out that shark repellent and sprays it at him. I'll find that video while you're talking about it if you want.
My other favorite one, and it's actually from the film, where he's on a pier and he's got a big fucking bomb that's like got the thing that's ticking down. He's like trying to throw it, but there's like a woman with a baby, and like he's trying to throw it over another way, and there's like a couple in a boat, and he's like, it's such a bad day to dispose of a bomb or something. It's so fucking stupid. So it's getting more and more surreal. In addition, the third series was much more topical, with references to hippies, mods, and distinctive 1960s slang, which the previous two seasons had kind of avoided. They'd just gone with the classic Batman Gotham 40s aesthetic sort of thing. Near the end of the no, 10-3 for you. No, go away. Near the end of the third season, ratings had dropped significantly, and ABC cancelled the show. NBC, yeah. NBC agreed to take over the series, but before it could do so, it was discovered that hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Batman sets had been accidentally on purpose destroyed. So I feel like ABC just like took a knife to the fucking sets after they got rid of it. So, oh, and we've got the Batmobile. This is a fucking icon. Look at that thing. Look at how beautiful that is.
Oh,
from
yeah.
a design point of, I mean, completely impractical, but like from a design point of view, that is some design there. Iconic look of the Batmobile with the two fucking pods that they're sat in. Imagine if you fart in one of those fucking pods. It is staying with you, isn't it? No matter what air conditioning does. Holy shit. And that was an actual car as well. I remember seeing the actual thing it was taken from before it became the Batmobile. It was an actual...
wasn't it a Corvette or something?
I think so. I think it was one of those, you know, like car companies designed these like one-off, never going into production kind of concept cars. I think it was one of those. I could be wrong, but I feel like 2 years before it became the Batmobile, that came out. And yeah. Sorry, just taking a drink there. But so NBC were going to take over the series, but hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of the Bat sets had been destroyed. And rather than rebuilding the sets and spending money that they probably thought they weren't going to get back, NBC just dropped the project, which is kind of crazy to me. I feel like if they'd gotten the rights, the kind of money they could have made on syndication alone would have made up for it, but they decided not to. Anyway, so you got the original car before the Batmobile. Yeah, look at that. It's amazing.
That one closed. Could you? That would have been enclosed with that part.
Man alive. I kind of want it though. You know, like it's completely impractical. And I definitely couldn't fit it on my drive.
Man, if you clip somebody on a bike, you'd impale them.
I also feel like if I went around a roundabout in the UK, that fucking thing would tip over straight away. But like, it just looks amazing, doesn't it? What a design. So NBC cut the series as well as ABC. At the time, Adam West had been earning $4,000 per episode as Batman, or $2,000 per half-hour installment. So they were splitting up the money, which is fine. It might not sound like a lot, but the average US house at the time was going for about $4,000. So he was earning a house worth of wages every single week.
That's
per
not
episode.
So bad.
That's not so bad. And it works out to about 40 grand per episode in today's money, which is in today's television environment is like decent money, but certainly not like lead actor on a huge show. Like, you know, the recent one that really surprised me was Steve Carell on that Space Force show where he was like a colonel that had been appointed, and John Malkovich was in the show. He was making $1 million an episode on that streaming show.
Really?
Yeah. It ran for 2 seasons.
Is it not coming back?
No, it's been cancelled. It's way too expensive. I know. I was all right. I know. But he's like, I mean, how many did they do? 10 episodes per season, or was it a 25? Anyway, he's made like $20 million. The dude's fine. You know, like I'm sure he's okay with it not coming back. But
yeah, well, he can come back and do. Yeah, I don't know. I hate when the stories don't keep going when there's still story.
Yeah, I feel like, and obviously we're talking about Batman being cancelled after the 3rd season, but there's no overarching storyline that needs resolving with Batman from the 60s, you know, whereas like a bunch of shows like Mindhunter was the big one for me on Netflix. That got cancelled after 2 seasons, and they were just about to get into the BTK killer. Like, give me more of that, man. That was a great show. So
there's too many that are getting canceled while there's still story left.
I know. I feel like the only ones that are kind of too big to fail are like the shows like the Lord of the Rings thing on Amazon, which they've sunk like $1 billion into, and like the House of the Dragon thing, because that's like they've sunk a shitload of money into that, and you can't cancel it now because people would fucking cancel their subscriptions. So there is Netflix and other streaming platforms are probably too mercenary with how quickly they cancel some shows, because sometimes you just need to give people a season's warning. Like, listen, it's not working out. We'll give you a year. Sort your shit out in a year. Just do that, right? And let them wrap up. And even shows like, it's funny because I was watching Ted Lasso and I was like, this could have done with another year because they fucking rushed the last 3 episodes of that shit.
Yeah.
So, I feel like they could have done another year where they go into the Champions League and all of this shit. But they didn't do that. They just sort of 3 seasons and you're done. So, it's weird how
They're
TV
doing
works now.
lots of weird things with TV these days.
Yeah, I think executives are too focused on the short term and not focused on long term storytelling and money making. From a business point of view, it makes no sense to be short term thinking, but it seems to be the model and it's not working and they're losing money and they wonder why. It's like because you're doing the opposite of what people want. But anyway, let's not get into a rant.
We'll save that for the tangent.
Save that for the tangent, yeah. So Adam West making decent money. However, he was paid $100,000 for the Batman movie between season 1 and season 2, which was kind of...
That's a lot of houses.
That's $1 million in today's money, but that's like a neighborhood. That's like you bought your own town, Mr. West. But he actually wanted $150,000 to do it, and they were like, no. And he was like, okay, well, 100,000, but you have to give me my own movie that is non-Batman related. It's non-camp. It's a serious, dramatic role. And they're like, deal. We'll shove you in whatever shit we're doing. You'll be fine. Yeah. The Batman film itself, while it's like widely regarded as a camp classic, it wasn't a big success at the time. It was a bit of a success. It only earned about $700,000 profit, which today sounds like a disaster, although compared to what has happened with like fucking Borderlands and these films where they're making $100 million losses, it's like, it's not bad. But $700,000, even back in the 60s, it's like not a massive amount of profit. The budget for the fucking film was $32 million in today's money. And maybe even at the time, I could be wrong. No, sorry, 3.1 million budget at the time, and it made back 3.8 million. So,
Okay.
like if it had gotten 5 million, then, you're probably getting a sequel, but like not even breaking 4, probably not enough there. And also an early sign that maybe they'd milked this too much. So
True, but he didn't lose money, so,
True.
that's good.
Yeah, and the studio made a bunch of money from like re-releases and rentals and, early merchandise for the thing, like posters and shit. So, yeah. After his high-profile role, West, along with Burt Ward and Yvonne Craig, who played Batgirl, were typecast, basically, for the rest of their careers. All three found it incredibly difficult to find other roles. West's first post-Cape Crusader role was in the film The Girl Who Knew Too Much. I think this was the one that he was like, I want a serious role. I'll take a pay cut if you give me a serious role. And they're like, okay, we've got this role for you. He's cast as the lead against type as a cynical, tough guy, John Kane. It didn't erode his Batman image, and the film was a massive box office failure. So that's kind of put the brakes on like any post huge career resurgence roles, For a time, West made a living from personal appearances as Batman. He did the circuit everywhere, and we've even got a picture here from The Simpsons, because he became so notorious for doing the autograph circuit. Him and William Shatner kind of created the demand for like Comic-Cons type events where like people from previous shows would come back and you could meet them and you'd pay $50 and get them to sign a picture and not spit on you or whatever, so like, and he basically, even though he was doing bit parts here and there, he made most of his money from these personal appearances where he'd appear at various events and sign autographs and do the bat gimmick shit and just like made a bunch of money doing that. In 1974, when Ward and Craig reprised their Batman roles for a TV public service announcement about equal pay for women, cool thing, West did not participate. Instead, they got some guy called Dick Gautier appeared as Batman. No fucking idea who that guy is. However, one of West's most memorable Batman appearances after the series had ended was with Memphis-based United States Wrestling Association, where he engaged in a war of words with Jerry the King Lawler wearing the cowl and a tracksuit and even name-dropping Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yes. This is, and I've got a bit here. This is only the fourth most insane thing that Jerry the King Lawler has done in his wrestling career. So you've got Adam West appearing on Memphis television as Batman, having a feud with Jerry the King Lawler. Third, I've put Andy Kaufman, obviously the famous feud that we've covered during Andy Kaufman's career. And second most insane thing he's done in his career, or had happened in his career, was allowing himself to be run over by a Cadillac for an ankle.
Oh my goodness!
And this is 1990, so he's like 40 at this point. He's really getting on. He's like, we're losing a lot of viewers here. We need to juice this angle. So he said to Eddie Gilbert, "Here's my Cadillac. I want you to run me over, but don't go any more than 10 miles an hour." Eddie Gilbert fucking ignored him and did 20 and plowed into him and nearly broke his leg.
Oh,
so
no.
Look at this shit. You got Adam West dressed as Batman almost, and then Jerry Lawler in some sort of Superman attempt outfit. What the fuck? That does not look flattering at all on either of them. Holy shit. And Adam West it is literally just a fucking tracksuit. So yeah, and the final thing, the most insane thing to happen to Jerry Lawler in his wrestling career, he nearly died on live television after having a massive stroke and being unresponsive for 8 minutes. This is live on Monday Night Raw about like 10 years ago. He was dead for 8 minutes and he returned to work like a month later. So yeah, and it was amazingly, it was at the exact same age that his father had died of a heart attack. He had a massive stroke on national television. You heard Michael Cole put his headset down, scream for help, and he was like taken up the ramp, having chest compressions done on him at the time, and he was unresponsive, not breathing, brain dead for 8 minutes.
Holy crap.
That dude is fucking unkillable. I swear to God. And yeah, anyway, so back to Adam West. Subsequently appeared in the theatrical films like The Marriage of a Young Stockbroker in 1971, The Specialist in 1975. I feel like I've heard of that, but there's probably a bunch of shit called The Specialist, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar. I don't know.
It does. Hooper, where he played himself. The Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood. That sounds like porn. One Dark Night, 1983, and Young Lady Chatterley 2. That's definitely porn. Holy shit. And West also appeared in such television films as The Eyes of Charles Sand, Poor Devil, Nevada Smith, For the Love of It in 1980, and I Take These Men in 1983. None of them. I don't recognize any of that. Although, on top of his like regular appearances at these like random personal things, he also did a bunch of guest shots that actually you'll have heard of a lot of these for sure. Obviously, Maverick, Diagnosis Murder, with what's his name? Dick Van Dyke. Is that Diagnosis Murder? I think Dick Van Dyke and his son, maybe. I could be wrong. Anyway,
sure.
Love, American Style, Bonanza, The Big Valley, Night Gallery, Alias Smith and Jones, which was a British TV show, which was actually a really cool film where a detective's partner has died but comes back as a ghost and helps him solve crimes. Yes, it's as stupid as it sounds. Mannix Emergency, Alice, Police Women, Operation Petticoat. We mentioned Young Lady Chatterley too. Wow.
Sorry. I had to find it.
That's porn, right? It's just porn. No doubt.
Adam West did porn.
He did porn, softcore maybe. Vegas, Big Seamus, Little Seamus. He was in Laverne and Shirley. Obviously, we've mentioned Bewitched, Fantasy Island, The Love Boat.
Have to do The Love Boat.
He had to do. Everyone did Love Boat. Heart to Heart, Zorro, The King of Queens. Remember that? Yeah, he was in an episode of that. And the George Lopez Show. So some pretty recent stuff. West also appeared in an episode of Bonanza that supposedly never aired until reruns were shown, and he made several guest appearances as himself on Family Feud. In 1986, he starred in the comedy police series titled The Last Precinct. Not heard of that. Probably got cancelled quickly. In 2010, a Golden Star on the Palm Springs Walk of Fame. A Walk of Stars was dedicated to him. West received the 2,468th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on April the 5th, 2012. His star is located on 6764 Hollywood Boulevard in front of the Guinness Museum in Hollywood, California, also between a McDonald's and a Crystal Shop. So you
That's
can
good
check
placement.
that out. That's decent. You know, if people stop in for a burger, they see Adam West. It works. At least he's not got like a homeless person taking a shit on his star of Walk of
No,
Fame.
that's probably happening too.
That's probably happening too. The campaign to get him a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which it's not as mysterious as people make, or as like honorary. Like you pay $5,000 to the city, and you get the right people on board, get a couple of people to sign a thing, and you get it. Like it's not a big deal, really. Although they make it into a huge ceremony, but like getting it is relatively straightforward, is what I'm saying. The kind of the campaign to get people to sign the thing to get him a Hollywood Walk of Fame star was championed by voice actor and podcaster Ralph Garman, who was and also a radio host, I think, who is one of his co-stars on The Other Thing he's probably most famous for. So from the year 2000 onwards, Adam West made regular appearances on the animated TV series Family Guy, on which he portrayed, and he did a lot of voice work. That's another thing he did a lot of. When you can see in the top left there of the image, if you're watching on YouTube, Mayor Adam West, where he played the lunatic mayor of Quahog, Rhode Island. And that is understating it. His ramblings and rants on that show, a lot of which were apparently improvised, are completely fucking insane. They're the stuff of nightmares.
They're awesome.
They are amazing. The thing is, the jokes go on and on and on. Like he might be doing like a really stupid sound, and it goes on for like 5-10 seconds. It's so weird. Bless him. That's such a good picture of Adam West as himself, only completely insane. He ends up dating Meg, which is kind of weird. His role brought West a new wave of popularity post Batman, and lead writer Seth MacFarlane claims to have gone out of his way to avoid typecasting West by deliberately not making any references to Batman. I've avoided typecasting him by having him play an insane old man. Like fucking hell, appearing, just doing a press conference covered in blood and stuff like that, and also like standing in front of a giant statue of the golden frog from like a fucking cereal box, and he's like, no, this isn't where all of our budget's gone. I promise it's gone to normal things. So on June 9th, 2017, West died of leukemia in Los Angeles at the age of 88. In a statement, his former Batman co-star and longtime friend Burt Ward said, "This is a terribly unexpected loss of my lifelong friend. I will forever miss him. There are several fine actors who have portrayed Batman in films. In my eyes, there was only one real Batman, and that is and always will be Adam West. He was truly the Bright Knight." The Batman the Animated Series actor Kevin Conroy, who also just an amazing voice actor who performed alongside Adam West in the episode Beware the Grey Ghost, said Adam West was an incredibly good and generous actor. Only one of those things is true. Loved working with him as Grey Ghost, a true gentleman, which is what everyone seems to say. Like, he's just the nicest guy about Adam West. On June the 15th, 2017, Los Angeles projected the bat signal onto City Hall as a tribute to Adam West. And in his hometown of Walla Walla, Washington, the bat signal was shone upon the landmark Whitmore Tower. So really, and there we go, some pictures of him towards the end there with the fucking Batman thing tattooed onto his chest.
He is Batman.
He is Batman. To an entire generation of people, Adam West is Batman, in the same way that to like my generation or certain people in my generation, it might be Christian Bale. Maybe people a little bit older, it might be like Michael Keaton. You know, to a new generation of people, it's now Robert Pattinson. You know, there's a whole bunch of people. No, well, yeah, trust me, I'm sure they are. I know. I refuse to, but I get it. Like, it's an important film for them. Anyway, it all sounds really sweet. You might be thinking there's nothing really bad in what we've been talking about. why, other than the fact he's been divorced 3 times, why is he on this podcast? Well, Barry just pulled up a picture of Mayor Adam West firing cats from a fucking crossbow in his pants. What the fuck? That show is amazing.
Not why he's on here.
No, that's not why he's on here. Why is Adam West on here? Well, as you might have guessed from the hints that we've laid throughout this podcast, he was a massive fucking poon hound, and he seriously made Wilt Chamberlain look like a frigid monk. This guy. Here's some overview of his epic womanizing, courtesy of a Page 6 article. Adam West, who died on Saturday at age 88, became a TV legend for his camped-up portrayal of Batman in the 1960s. But behind the mask was a sex-mad actor who slept with up to 8 women a day. Sometimes 8 women a night.
Good grief.
Yeah. How much time does he have to put his fucking pants on? And when the show was axed, he became a huge alcoholic, unfortunately. No wonder the show was so shit. He was probably doing, just one take and then sneaking off to have sex.
It's like, how would he have any energy? No wonder he sucked at acting.
I know. I can't do a second take. I'm literally shagged out. He and co-star Burt Ward, who played sidekick Robin, also romped with eager groupies in their dressing room in between scenes.
Yeah, exhausted constantly.
Fuck, crazy.
No wonder he was skinny.
I know. He's just got nothing. He's like 3% body fat. Yes. In fact, West discovered the only limits to his bedroom bat powers were those caused by his famous costume. The actor explained years later, because of the physical limitations of the costume, you gotta have quickies. Ugh.
Okay.
Okay. And he had an awful lot of them, as well as dates with fellow stars, including actress sisters Natalie and Lana Wood. Ugh. He dated both of them.
At the same time?
No, but
okay, well,
still.
Right. Did they know?
Yeah, they knew. Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Everybody's fine.
I'm sure it's fine, but it's just and also Raquel Welch.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not know that one.
I know, that was a bit of a shock to me. So West explained, Bert and I were like kids in a candy store. You're 37 fucking years old, mate. You are not a kid. It was the swinging 60s with free love, and women threw themselves at us. I remember one night with 8 different women. Orgy is a harsh word.
It's the fitting word. It's the word you use.
Yeah, fucking eyes wide shut over here. It was 8 at one time. I'd have what was it? Oh God, I'd have young female co-stars in my dressing room at 7:45 in the morning. That's not aged well. I doubt many people in the swinging 60s were having this much sex, Adam. In fact, this is okay. I warned you about this. West did once turn up to what he described as an orgy in Hollywood with Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler in the Batman series.
I thought you were going to say in costume.
They did.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, Kimberly here. He kept the mask on. So they were thrown out of this orgy because they refused to break character and take off their costumes.
Oh, no.
Riddler, what are you doing with those 3 women? He said, we walked in, it was an orgy. So I immediately went into the Batman character, and Frank went into the Riddler character because we were getting the big giggles. Oh my God, that's entirely appropriate for the story we're talking about. Mayor Adam West revealing the Bat logo. That's amazing. Because we were getting the big giggles. It was so funny to us. We walked in, what we walked into. When we were getting kicked out, we were expelled from the orgy. Kicked out of an orgy for being too silly is quite a claim to fame.
I'm impressed.
I am too. Meanwhile, and this is where it gets a bit weird. Well, more than a bit weird. Meanwhile, trusty boy wonder Burt Ward claimed West was definitely the ringleader when it came to their own adventures. He recalled decades later, when I entered Batman as a naive 20-year-old, who'd only dated a couple of girls, I met Adam West, who immediately introduced me to the wildest sexual debauchery that you can imagine. We often found that women were banging on our windows while we were bedded down with other women. He makes it sound like a zombie apocalypse.
That's
yeah.
terrifying.
This picture here, and Derek is showing me a picture of what seems to be Adam West on set in Batman costume with two women staring at him. This seems to... Listen, there are going to be questions about consent and power dynamics over this. I really don't know what to make of this situation, but it seems like... I mean, Adam West was a handsome man. He had a very baritone voice. He was very famous, and he was twice divorced. I wouldn't be surprised if he's basically Don Draper at this point. Like, women are interested in him, and he's chasing them. So I think that was... What's her name who played Batgirl? Batwoman, I think.
Oh,
I could be
it's
wrong,
just a
but
funny picture.
I mean, it's pretty suggestive. So Burt Ward added, we're talking about wild times in the dressing rooms, on the set, behind the shots, in the lunch wagon. The lunch wagon? Was a wagon for lunch?
Yes, it's the old time. He was on Westerns, maybe. You know,
He was on Westerns. Actually, you know what? Fair dues to Adam West. He looks in decent shape there, although the hair... Not sure what's going on with the hair there, but yeah. So he was banging chicks in the lunch wagon, and then, of course, doing the personal appearances on the weekend. That's where it got really wild. And I have to be honest with you, we became like sexual vampires. So what we do in the shadows was entirely accurate then, basically. He added that the costumes seem to be part of the lure for women. If you look at our show, you'll always see that we were always stood with our legs open, our fists on our hips, and bat bulges forward, which had profound effect on women. Burt Ward sounds like a fucking flasher. Jesus. West was 37 years old and twice divorced when he was offered the role that would define his life. In a BBC interview in tribute to his late friend, Ward said, "We were playing it on multiple levels. We were playing with our audience. For the kids, it was a serious hero worship. For the adults, it was the nostalgia, the comic book, and the very difficult audience at the time to capture, the teenagers and the college kids. It was insinuations, the double entendres, and all the things that nobody had ever done with the audience," which is true. It appealed to mass audiences on multiple different levels. And we got another picture from the set here of the bat bulges. My God, it reminds me a little bit of David Bowie in Labyrinth, where you don't see it until you see it, and then you can't take your fucking eyes off it. So
you were doing it on purpose.
They were thrusting on purpose, and apparently that's all it took. It's like fucking Austin Powers or something. Wow, it's not subtle when you don't see it. West said later, "I was doing things I wasn't very comfortable doing. I became very self-destructive. That came from being disillusioned and frustrated. I was bitter when I realized that Batman had caused me to lose a lot of the roles afterwards. He turned increasingly to booze, triggering behavior so bad, or in terms of him, so rampantly sexual. He was barred from Aspen, the town, for life."
Ooh.
He banged his way through Aspen. Who's that? Is that? Is that Adam West? I mean, he's still in the fucking Batman costume, for God's sake, wearing sunglasses. Who's he drinking with there? Don't know who that is.
I'm not sure. It's just him boozing it up in a Batman costume somewhere in Aspen, getting kicked out.
Yeah, one of the few times he's not having sex, apparently. Heavy drinking even almost ruined a meeting with the Pope, Paul VI. West recalled the morning he was to meet with the pontiff. "I woke up with the worst hangover of my life," probably surrounded by women as well. "I made it to the Vatican, and I was at the back of this line of people who each knelt down to kiss his ring. Lol. Then it was my turn. He put his hand out. I realized that if I knelt down, I wouldn't be able to get up again. So I was so hungover. So he just bent over instead of kneeling over and kissed the ring, and apparently the Pope was like, "Oh, we've seen all of your Batman things, we love them," and he got away with it, and the Pope didn't notice that he was plastered out of his brain. Despite these lows, West eventually made peace with his career, stayed with his third wife, Marcel Tagland Leah, until his death. So they were married for like 25 years. So it's like a really good, steady relationship for him, which is great. And apparently, this is the really impressive thing for me. He earned a reported $25 million from rerun fees and personal appearances alone.
Dang.
Yeah. That syndication, man, that's where the money is.
Dude, if only that existed for TV
Some of the
series
people now.
today.
I know, instead of like the fucking executives getting hundreds of millions of dollars. And like, yeah, honestly, syndication is where the money's at. He explained, I decided that since so many people love Batman, I might as well love it too. So I began to re-engage myself with Batman, and I saw the comedy. I saw the love people had for it, and I just embraced it. And that's the story of Adam West, a man who had a really interesting career. He was typecast afterwards, but, and I wanted to talk about this. The guy walked down on his alcoholic mother having sex with a preacher when he was 12 years old. His parents divorced when he was 15, and his family seems to have a history of alcoholism and mental illness. I think that, combined with just the insane level of fame he was experiencing, meant that he was probably masking the issues he had and the fear and dread and loneliness he had in his life. I think he was masking it with sex and booze.
It could be, but I mean,
or he was just being a dude in the 60s and just getting what he could. Yeah.
From what you're saying, though, it doesn't seem like there was any sort of like buddy mad about it.
No, I mean, it's been 7 years since Adam West died, and I haven't seen any stories, and I did quite a bit of research for this. I haven't found a single, even moderately high profile story of someone saying, you know, Adam West touched me inappropriately or did this to me. Nobody seems to have come out, and from the amount of sex he had, if any of it had been non-consensual, I feel like at least one story would have come out by now, but it seems like none of it has. Do we have confirmation on any of this? Some of these stories seem a bit exaggerated. This is the problem as well, Kimberly. Men exaggerate numbers. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain allegedly slept with like 12,000 women or some stupid shit like that. And it's like, you wouldn't have had a fucking career if you slept with that many women. Come on. So I feel like 8 in a day, maybe he did that once. But to say it was like every day, like he'd be fucking dead, you know, way before 88.
What you're counting, and like, how do you, like, that's a lot of math. It
that's
just
way
seems
too
like
much.
Keeping track is,
yeah. And that level of organization for a man, like, that's way too much.
They didn't even have spreadsheets back then.
Yeah, exactly. You needed a fucking secretary, and he'd have banged her too. So I don't know how much of it is true. I believe that it's probably, other than maybe the Rolling Stones, that I can probably believe. I think most of the sex in the 60s is exaggerated. It's just the fact that people started talking about it. Like, because nobody talked about sex in the 50s. They fucking chop your tongue out for that shit. Whereas like in the 60s, like, oh yeah, I had sex with a hippie in a field in fucking Woodstock, you know, like I think because people started talking about it, maybe the numbers got exaggerated because people want to exaggerate stuff like that. But I don't think it's probably far off to say that he was probably addicted to sex. I think that's fair to say by the sounds of it, you know.
It sounds like he had a lot of it, at least.
Yeah. And that's kind of, initially he rejected that label because Burt Ward came out with like a tell-all biography, and Adam West was like, no, this didn't happen. No, I was a good boy. And then like towards the end of his life, he's like, yeah, I slept with a lot of women. So I don't know whether the sex was him masking something or trying to run away from something or trying to deal with something, or if it was just an influence from some early childhood stuff, or if it was just a dependency issue because maybe that was running in his family at the time with the alcoholism and the manic depression. But other than that, Adam West actually sounds like a really good guy and an icon of television and a really interesting person. So what do you make of this?
I agree with that. And I mean, even with the sex, if it was unfortunately masking something that he didn't deal with, he seemed like a genuinely good guy, nice guy that lived a pretty good life.
He did. He
And
did live a good life,
hey,
comfortable
man,
life.
let your freak flag fly as long as everything's all consensual and happy adults.
Absolutely. Like if this is all between consenting adults and there's no coercion and none of that. And I mean, talk about power dynamics and what have you. But I feel like if this was all above board, and there are situations where that has happened with men and women who have been sex positive, then I'm totally fine with it, especially given that and he'll say it was the 60s, and people were having a lot more sex in the 60s because the pill was invented, and people just were more open about sexuality, and that was a good thing, especially given how frigid and dangerous things were before that. So
And might be.
yeah, I mean, good for Adam West. In terms of scoring him, this is
I don't even know.
I know it's like a hard one, really. That's what she said.
Can I give him a high score just for being awesome?
Yes,
that would
you
be
can
the
give him a
first
high
time
score
ever that somebody gets a high score for being a good, awesome person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give him a 90 for being a great icon person that changed TV and brought just changes.
Yeah,
I guess.
and
Like
also
if
you think about Adam West, the first thing that I think about is just fun.
Yeah.
He's just a fun dude, his roles were fun. There's no, I mean, obviously there was shit in his youth, and obviously he turned to alcohol and the sex and stuff, but he seems to have had a decent life. You look back at some people, like another one I think about is Dean Martin. Like, obviously there were troubled times in their lives, but for the most part I look back at them and I think you probably had a good time in your life and you were reasonably happy with it. So I like when you hear stories when there's not a massive amount of tragedy. This guy has done well. He's made a lot of people very happy in and out of the bedroom. And
well, and that sort of early life stuff could have been managed way worse.
Oh yeah, like he could have turned out a lot worse, especially as he went to Korea as well. Like I mean, obviously he was doing announcer and shit, but he still went to war, and he seems to have avoided. I mean, maybe there's trauma in there. Maybe he really was Don Draper with the Korea thing, but it seems like for the most part he was a good guy. Nobody seems to have a bad word to say about Adam West, other than the fact that he's not the greatest actor on the planet, but he just seems like a happy-go-lucky guy. I remember watching Ralph Garman when they were doing the Hollywood Star Walk of Fame thing, just saying how giving he was to like younger actors who just wanted to talk to him, and he would like talk for hours about like telling them stories and giving them advice and just being warm and taking people out for meals and like being really friendly with fans. Not like that, but like so with that childhood and some addictions, he still turned out a pretty decent man. Kimberly, I agree. I think that's pretty much the lesson here, is that he overcame some shit, not massive shit, not like New Jack levels of like my dad shot my mum and shit like that, but
Right.
like some pretty intense stuff, and he turned out to be a decent person, lived a good long life, influenced a lot of people in a very positive way, and it's been a long time since he died now, and nobody seems to have said anything really bad about him. So I'm happy that Adam West is viewed in that light, and he's an icon of television. And I just had a lot of fun reading about him because it was just a nice story after I'd spent a lot of time vomiting.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed this one a lot.
I did too.
And he didn't take his boozing like Ollie Reed or anything like that too, so
he didn't drink himself to death, or like he didn't become a tragic figure as a result of it, or like someone like Orson Welles who basically ate himself to death. Like, these people who gorge and gorge and gorge because they're running from something. Like, to be able to overcome an addiction, and it seems that he overcame at least two from what we can tell, is a really impressive thing. And to have not gone bankrupt, to have been able to give back to people through entertainment and through advice and like helping like other actors and just be funny and entertaining, that's a wonderful life, really, and good for him. And I hope West's many children, he has at least 6, are happy with the legacy that he's left them. And I'm sure his legacy and his estate are probably still earning money from Batman related syndication still to this day, I'd imagine, at some point. His merchandise rights alone will probably be worth a fortune. So gotta love those likeness rights. We need to get toys. We need to get action figures. Holy shit. And some of that Mattel money. So that's our show for this week, folks. I really enjoyed doing Adam West. And Derek, I assume you enjoyed listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was a good one this week. I kind of stumbled upon this one and I thought this is going to be a pick-me-up for everyone, because there's been some shit going around recently for everyone. So I just wanted a nice pick-me-up this time. So
much appreciated and totally enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you. And I enjoyed talking to you all about it. So if you want to support us on Patreon for such wonderful stories like this, you can go to patreon.com/historysgreatestidiots and join our wonderful patrons Jesse Christ, Kimberly Johnson, Andrew Zavara, Dilly Bob, and Silent Crisis. Sling us some cash, and you can also get a free gift when you join. You get an annual gift every year. You get exclusive behind-the-scenes recordings with us doing various tangent-based episodes, and you'll also get pictures and videos from our life that you will not see anywhere else. And also you can hang out with our other lovely patrons. Kimberly, great show, guys. I enjoyed it. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us. We really love having you here. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, we don't post very often. Occasionally I get around to it when I'm doing one of my 3 side hustles. You can find us at History's Greatest Idiots, and also on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube and subscribe at History's Greatest Idiots. So we will be back in a couple of weeks with another podcast. By the new point in time, Derek will be in a new house and he will be relaxing and kicking back, and I will be not vomiting violently all night, and everyone will be great. So until next time, Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody.
And we'll see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye.